Hello friends, it's Lisa and I'm back today with another video. Today's video is using all the little die cuts that I created a couple videos ago and making some cards out of them. Now, I thought I was going to make them a lot more colorful, add a lot of detail and stuff to these die cuts that I cut, the white cuts I'm talking about now. And so the stamps are all from Crafter's Companion and the die cuts are all from Crafter's Companion as well. They have these really cool tunnel kind of die cuts where you can create multiple layers and add a little bit of depth. And I do that with one of the cards, and that's the card that didn't turn out very well, but I'll talk about that later, and there's a specific reason why that one didn't come out, and I'll show you that later. So I'm going to start with, I already die cut out a few of the biggest dies from that tunnel die I was talking about into the cardstock. Next, I took a piece of vellum, and that's just a translucent cardstock. So here you can see, and I'm airbrushing over the top of this with some light blue marker. It's hard to see right now, and that's because I realized after a little bit you need to tilt the airbrush down further to actually get the color on really well. You just have to look where the nozzle is pointing, and where that air is blowing, that's what needs to be straight down. So this one right here I'm going to do in a circular pattern. So the lightest is going to be in the middle, then I'm going to come into the middle color, and that's going to go about halfway, and then I'll put the darkest around the edges. Normally when you do this, the airbrush of alcohol markers kind of comes off sticky. So usually what I do is I put that on the inside. So I'll glue that side to the piece of paper. But on this one, we're not actually gluing to a piece of paper. It's going to be kind of a see-through card. So you have to finish that top off. Otherwise, it's sticky and you'll get little dust particles and stuff that'll stick to it. So it's just something to note. If you're going to make this card, you have to think about that. If you don't have an Copic airbrush machine, which is understandable because they're like $200, what you can do is do a light watercolor on this. So you just got some blue and just watercolored over it with lightly, and then you'd want to heat dry it and possibly put it under a heavy book for a night or two. That would make it flat again. So, although I would say that the Copic airbrush system, I use it a lot in my crafting. I didn't expect to, but I have ended up using it quite a bit. On this one, rather than doing the circle, I did like striations. So it kind of went back and forth. I am only going to show you these couple just because I think I might show you the others, but I won't show you as in depth. I'm going to take this glitter dust iridescent spray, and I had to tilt my spray box up so that it would the can would actually spray. And you're going to want to do this in a well-ventilated area. Also, something to note is you want to kind of clean your spray box out every once in a while if you use something like distress spray stain like I did in here, because it won't fully dry in the box, so you just want to wipe it away. So I had to do that because one of them got a little bit of that brown spray stain on it, but I just glued something over the top of that, so it wasn't a problem, but to avoid any issues. Now you can see this one, I just die cut that outer die there with the little flowers and leaves, out of half of the cardstock. And this is a 5.5 by 5.5, well, I guess 5.5 by 11, folded in half. And then I die cut on the front that biggest die. This just gives an outer frame. And I thought I was going to color that outer frame, either with Copic markers or possibly with some Distress Oxide ink pads. But once I put all the stuff together, I realized that that white was really nice. And it kind of made the little die cuts that I'd spent a lot of time coloring really pop. So I decided to just leave it. Along with the white on top of that really light blue is really pretty, I felt like. You can add more colors, but I think that leaving just the white space makes the other parts of this card pop. So I'm putting all of those little die cuts that I'm going to use through my Xyron sticker adhesive maker. And I'll go around and push in those edges. Since I did not put my piece of paper through my Xyron adhesive maker before I die cut them out of my electric machine, which I should have done, but I was just too excited, I had to go through and put the little die cuts through it or glue them down in some cases. So here I'm just sticking this to that piece of paper, and throughout this process I do cut anything on the edges off. Sorry, I'm not sure what that is. I think it's some glue. I do cut anything off because a lot of times it looks good if the image is coming in from the edge, but you do want to cut so that the edge is straight. Next, I took some Gina K Connect glue, which I ran out of while I was doing this project. I need to order some more, but I like it a lot and it really grabs hold. So I use it for most of this project. I do switch over to the Tim Holtz Collage Media glue as well as the glossy accents later once the Gina K Connect glue runs out. So I'm just putting it on all the little spots just so that everything really sticks down nicely. Then I'm going to put the top of that blue paper to the corner and lay it down. If you have a little bit of blue peeking out over the edge of the card, that's okay. Wait until it's dry and then cut that off. So next I'm doing this next card, which I thought turned out so cute. I decided that she has read this little note. You'll see it. I put it up near her hand. And from this fairy dust bottle, and now she's sad. It's just what it looked like to me. Kind of created a whole story for it. Anyway, but I just glued everything down really quick, and I'm going to do the exact same thing where I cut the edges off and then glue the white down. This is all that I had die cut out of those white die cuts, and I thought I was going to do something else with the rest of the die cuts, but I just loved how these turned out so much that I was like, I will do this again. But I thought, oh, you know, it'd be great is if I took a couple of these little fairy houses and made one of those tunnel scenes. Well, it was just a lot going on. And you'll see that here in a minute. We'll go through it. So that card is the one card that I was like, nah. But otherwise, I thought that turned out really cute. Here you can see I have the other card pieces all cut out. And that long one, I'll show you what I'm going to do with it first. So I decided that instead of having a cutout of the vellum, I would just glue the vellum on the side of this card because I'm going to put the big door on the white piece after I put it through an embossing folder to make it look like wood. so it looks like it's part of a tree. And you'll see that in just a second. But I'm going to fold the vellum as well. And then this is going to be bigger than a 5.5 by 5.5 card. See, I'm just like playing around here a little bit with it. But this is what it's going to look like. But since it's bigger than 5.5 by 5.5, I am going to have to cut that vellum down a little bit. So here you can see that's what I'm deciding to do. I say, you know what, this needs to be the right size. So I figure out how much I need to make a 5.5 by 5.5 card, and then I'm going to add 1/4 inch. That's so I have some space to glue the vellum to the watercolor cardstock. That's, I don't think I've said that yet, but the white paper I'm using right now is watercolor cardstock. Like I said, I'd planned on putting some color down on the watercolor cardstock, and so I needed it to be thick just in case I did use watercolor. I ended up not doing that, but it is pretty thick, so that was nice. There, I just cut it down. Next, gonna flip both of those open and run just a small bead of glue over the edge. Oh, no, I lied. First, I put it through this wood grain cardstock. I put the cardstock through a wood grain embossing folder. Blah, blah, blah. I can speak English. And I'm putting that through my Gemini machine. I have to use the large plate, but I only use one thick plate and then the plastic shim on top. Since it's a 3D embossing folder, I really should have spritzed that with a little bit of water just so that there would be no cracking. There was just a tiny bit, so it wasn't a big deal. But if you don't want any cracking, just spritz that watercolor paper with the tiniest bit of water before you put it in. I also decided to just do 1/2 of this blue of the vellum on this card. I didn't want to do it on the other side as well. So I taped down at the folded edge and then airbrushed below. And see, here you can see that I'm pointing this where the airstream is straight down. So you have to tip it a little bit more than you think you're going to. I did striations on the other two pieces, and then on this one I'm trying to do kind of an ombre where it's lighter at the top and darker at the bottom. Then I don't show you this, but I actually spray those again. After letting those dry, I also die cut out some other pieces from the tunnel die set, and these don't die cut on the bottom so that you can kind of create little scenes, which looks great. And I'll show you kind of how I have a video of how that works, so I'll try and link that up at the end if you want to see more about these tunnel die cuts. But this one right here that I'm gluing now is the one that doesn't turn out super great. I think if I'd stopped there and put the blue on the back of there, it would have been just as adorable as all the other cards, but I went too far. And I want you to know so that you can stop and think, sometimes you can go too far. And that's what I did here. So I added some volume using some fun foam, and I just cut that into some thin strips and glued that around the edges. While I let that dry, I went back over here, and this is when I actually glued it. I was getting ahead of myself earlier. I did tape the watercolor piece down just so that I could glue it real well. So here I'm using some washi tape and this came in my foil quill set, and it's the best washi tape I've ever used. And I'm going to need to get some more. But anyway, I just taped it down along one of the lines, and then I put a bead of glue just along the very edge, and then I lay that piece right down. And I'm able to line it up with the grid on my glass mat. Then I just stick it down, and since I'm still using Gina K Connect adhesive, I just press that in for about 30 seconds. And while I do let that fully dry, it is dry enough, or like really thick enough, that it holds it. It holds that vellum, and even though I move it around, it doesn't shift. Next, I'm gluing this little flower to my tunnel card, which if I'd stopped here, I think it still would have looked okay. But then I go and add that second tunnel piece, which is cute, and you can make some really cool tunnel cards, but with so much white. And then this little red piece here that I'm holding, that white in between, you know, that the die cut didn't cut out, or my scan and cut didn't cut out, it looks weird. It just all around, there was too much white, and there was just a lot going on with this card, so much that you couldn't really appreciate what was going on. But I did add some glue to the fun foam. Then I'm going to stick that other tunnel piece, and so this is a middle tunnel size piece from actually another tunnel set. And I know that I think they might be called storybook sets or something. They look kind of like pop-up books. But it was another storybook tunnel set that I used, the middle piece there. And then I let that dry. While I was letting that dry, I did cut this other piece down because the vellum just didn't quite reach the end. So I just trimmed it off. So it might be a little less than 5.5 by 5.5, but it's close enough. Next, I'm going to glue this flower down to the edge so that it sticks. And then I'm going to add another layer of this foam around the edge. And this is where I'm getting low on that glue. It was so sad. I was like, no, what am I supposed to do? And I haven't needed to buy any craft supplies, and so I haven't wanted to order just that. So I haven't gotten any new yet, but I'll survive next time I get some different stuff. I'll get some more, 2 or 3 Gina K Connect glues. I was surprised by how good these are, but they're definitely something worth getting. So here, this is the piece that I got a little bit of that brown on. I just hid that brown behind the die cuts, but that's why you might want to, if you're using a plastic box, wipe that down every once in a while. Finally, I just put some glue around that, and even here I could say, this is not looking great. So I thought maybe if I readjusted it a little bit, it'd be fine. But I don't know. It didn't turn out great. I was a little disappointed in that one. The other ones turned out really good though. So here I've put some foam adhesive behind that door, and I've put a few of those flowers. Oh, that's where I was like, no, my glue, it's gone. So I put the flower down just so they'd look really cute, kind of beside the door. And there you can see that the door is kind of like the little gnome's house. He lives at the tree. Oh, that's so cute. But I'm taking this garland of kind of flowers, and I'm going to glue that down as well as that garland of flowers that I colored. So since I ran out of Gina K Connect glue, I'm going to take some of this collage medium glue. And since it kind of spurts out, I knew that I'd never get the small dots that I needed. So I just poured some on my craft mat, and then I'm using a little kind of plastic paintbrush nail thing to apply that glue to the back. If if you had been smarter than me, you would have put your paper through the Xyron and then die cut it. But I didn't do that, and this was quicker than putting this through the Xyron and then trying to get all the goopies off. So I stick that down, and then I'm going to stick this other one down. I'm not sure if I show it, but I do cut the parts that stick out off that card off, but I let it dry first. That's a key to this whole process when you're using liquid glue, is to let it dry before you start messing with it. Because if you don't, then it's not going to stay and you're going to have issues and it's going to be a pain. But here, I just stuck that down. I thought this one turned out pretty cute as well. So, and that's about all that I did for that card, other than cutting off the edges once it was a little bit more dry. Next, we're going to move on. So since that tunnel card didn't work out great, I decided not to make another tunnel card. I would just make one like I had done before. So I decided to put it through the Xyron machine, all of it just through the Xyron machine. And since I die cut first, I'm going to have to press around the edges so that all the glue goes up onto the pull away carrier sheet and not onto the die cut, because you just want the glue behind the die cut. So I took this little ball pen, it's just the other edge of that tool I was using a few minutes ago, and ran around the edges, and then you don't have any little gooberies that can sometimes happen when you're using a Xyron adhesive maker machine. So next I'm just pulling this up, and I'm going to line this up. I decided it'd be easier to line the blue paper since it's flat, or like not die cutted out of, to the die cut piece, which I think was definitely the right idea. And then since this is not liquid glue, I just went ahead and cut the blue off that was hanging around the edge. Now, since this is a separate piece and there's no, like I didn't cut it out of the full card, it can't really be a see-through card. Unless I made like a hinge or something, which I just wasn't going to work out very well. Here I wanted to show you, I do show you, I cut off the edges. Here are the cards I made, and you can see that the top 3 cards are really cute, and then that tunnel card, just something about it isn't visually appealing. I think there's just too much going on, and white in the wrong spaces, I guess. But it's okay. Sometimes you try something and it just doesn't work out great. But I'll give that to my niece because she'll love it. I think it's still pretty. It's just not as nice as those other cards. So I did want to show you that I'm just using a stamp. This is a Bible verse, but you could use really any kind of sentiment. And I really liked how the tops of those cards were looking. So I didn't want to add that sentiment, or in my case a Bible verse, onto the top of the card. So I decided to do it on the inside of the card. And at first I knew I didn't want it in full black ink, so I thought this distress ink in hickory smoke would be really nice because it's kind of a neutral gray. But the distress ink itself doesn't stamp great, so I decided to use the distress oxide on the others. That's what you'll see here. On this one I stamped it, instead of in the center, the rest of them I stamped kind of offset to the right side, which looks really nice as well. So, in there I still have plenty of space on the inside to write a note. there. I wasn't sure if I liked those top little garland pieces, and I go back and forth, but I think they turned out pretty cute. So here you can see that through a little bit, but just a little bit. And when you have it standing up, you can't really see that sentiment. I think it's really nice. It's a nice blend. So here I'm taking some little gems from a Lucy's card mix and putting them in to make a shaker card. I put some of that fun foam around the edge, and I'm going to glue that to my card base. I thought, oh, this will be so cute, because like I said, this one can't really be a see-through card unless I hinged it. I decided to just glue it straight to this card base and put some gems in between it and the card, making it a shaker card. I'm not much into shaker cards, but every once in a while, and especially in a case like this, where it's not too kitschy, I guess, I think it's really fun. So I did a big spill because I was like, oh, I think I'll add a couple more, and then they all came spitting out. So I had to add some more glue and then pick them up, and I think one or two actually got glued down on the card so they don't, everything else shakes around and then they're just stuck there, but that's okay. And you'll see that some of them have the back down and others have the back up, so you'll see you get a lot different look. And I'm just going to press that down and then gently flip it up. And it turned out super cute. I like it a lot. I like that some of them are facing up, so you kind of get that iridescent quality, and some of them are facing down, so you get the dark blue quality. Plus, looking at it through the colored vellum is a lot of fun. I love how the sentiment, you can see just a little bit through as well. I love these see-through cards. They're just so fun. Plus, using just the white die cut and the simple blue background really lets all the coloring I did stand out. Finally, I have one question for y'all. So if you can let me know in the comments, which one are you more interested in? Using just like a stamp set or die set and focusing on that, or videos that are more technique driven? I'm happy to do either, but I want to make sure that I'm giving y'all content that you're actually interested in. Likewise, here's some videos that you might enjoy after having watched that one. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you really soon. Bye.